We were just joined by Nichol Bradford here.
Hello.
Hi, Nicole. And I'm so excited that Nicole could join us. And this will be our final discussion, Nicole. So um, thank you for being here with your powerful presence. Um, oh my goodness. How do I even start? Um, I'll start with who Nicole is. Um, Nicole is a wonderful friend, but she is also she's executive in residence for AI and HI at the Society for Human Resource Management. She is co-founder of Neuremia Collective, an extraordinary group that invests in and funds the very technologies most of us are talking about and hoping for. It's an early stage venture fund focused on human potential technologies. She co-founded transformative the largest global ecosystem building tech for human flourishing. She's former senior executive at Epic Games, Activision Blizzard, and Disney. She led the World of Warcraft China operations and contributed to the 18 billion Activision Blizzard merger. She's got an MBA from Wharton. She's been a brilliant faculty at Singularity University. Um, she is just incredible, absolutely incredible. And Nicole, I'm so excited you were able to make it because of I know how busy you are and welcome. I want you to
Thank you
talk
for
about
having
something
me.
that, and amongst all of this, she launched an incredible summit this year, Human Tech Week,
Mm.
and all of us that came together in the community. Talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing, really centering around how are we all going to do this? How are we really going to bring compassionate action with humans and AI? You've been at this longer than just about anybody out there. Talk to us a
Oh,
little bit.
wow. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really love to be in any space that you're in, honestly. Um, and for Human Tech Week, yeah, you know, I would say like the thing that I spend most of my time on is the intersection between human potential and technology. And I really believe that technology should serve us, that it should help us, and that it should support us in becoming more deeply human. And so, as you said, like I've been working on this directly since 2014. And where I differ from some of the other voices that are out there around tech, though I feel we're all on the same team, is that I don't think tech is necessarily bad. I just think it's not good enough. Like we don't need another champagne delivery app, that is like timed, to whatever. We have real problems that need to be solved. And I think, this
And we can have the
technology.
champagne too, though, right? We can also have
Yeah,
the
totally. Like
champagne.
after we solve our problems, let's get some champagne.
Okay.
Um, and so I have a personal philosophy that if I complain about something for more than 3 months, I make a decision. Actually, I sit down and meditate about it. And I mean, really complaining because I'm not really a complainer. I'm a builder and a creator and a doer. And so if I'm complaining about something and I notice that I'm complaining about something, I give myself 3 months to complain. And then I decide, am I going to do something about it? Or am I going to decide that it's someone else's dharma and take it off my plate? And, you know, um, and so for this, I was going to tech conferences, many I saw you at. We had the same conversation where I was like, where are the people in all of this? There was this desire to, there was a lot of, what was really striking me is that there was so much ambition for technology. Like, oh, the AI is going to do this and it's going to do that and it's going to do this. But like real clear, a beautiful vision for humans. I was not seeing that. I was not seeing a vision for humans that was truly, truly ambitious. And so I decided to do Human Tech Week. Like you go to a health conference and they would be talking about AI and health, and they'd be talking about the health data layer and not about patient journeys, and what does
Mhm.
a true healing journey look like? And how do we use technology to support a true healing journey? It was always like, here's the tech. And then these people are getting stuffed into it.
Yeah.
And so, so in December, I was like, I'm going to do something about it. Uh, um, and then I really started organizing in February, and in roughly 3.5 months, 250 speakers, almost 1,300 people, and I think the spark on that was, really that I wasn't the only one who was feeling this hunger for, um, people to be in this story, this human, this AI future for humans to be in the story. There's like two sides. One side is the utopians and the dystopians, and the utopians say that AI is going to take your job and then kill you. And the utopians say there won't be anything for you to do. And human nature means you're going to, sit around and do nothing. And that doesn't sort of reflect um, the purpose, meaning, and agency that is required for humans to flourish. And so that's what Human Tech Week was, and it was beautiful.
Yes,
It was such a vibe.
it was so stunning. And what I loved so much about this, Nicole, is, the way that you were creating this, it's so connected to us as humans and not, even though, I mean, mind-blowing tech, the speakers, everyone that showed up, I mean, these are incredible innovators, incredible people also that are really at the center, of what we're talking about around compassionate, compassion within AI and humans and AI and neuroscience and so many different areas. But can you share, there's 6 core areas that you had aligned for Human Tech Week, and it's so beautiful. Even to this day, it's still one of my favorite conferences ever. Can you share that?
Yeah. Well, so and one thing I should say is that human tech grew out of transformative tech. And so transformativetech.org was a nonprofit dedicated to supporting this kind of tech. So I've been thinking about it for a while. So the 6 areas, one is called vital. And so that's preventative health and wellness, because the body affects the mind and the mind affects the body. You just can't separate the two. And so even though I started out being very sort of cognitively focused, it just sort of became clear over time that you can't get to, real human psychological health without considering the way that the body affects the mind. So preventative health and wellness, then mental, emotional, and social health. I call it mesh. Then a category called peak. So that's individual and organizational performance. So it's like, how do we perform at our very best? How do we create at our very best? And how do we do that together? I think
Mm,
that's really the question of the day, too. The fourth category is called sync, and that's really on collective intelligence and collaboration at scale. You know, I think that we haven't yet seen the truly scaled human collaboration platform, because email is not it. Neither is social media. It's something closer to folded. The, AI and community driven protein folding platform where people, humans were able to work together and discover things quickly, because that human collective intelligence is extraordinary. And I think that, I'm obsessed about a collective human super intelligence. And this is where I talk about AI. Like everyone's talking about artificial super intelligence. And it's like, well, what about the human collective super intelligence? Because like that, that human collective mind, the human
mhm.
starlings together, like, we haven't even seen what that could accomplish. And all the micro examples of it have been, aggressively extraordinary. The next category is called soul, and that was really about purpose, meaning, agency, and then also, consciousness, both spiritual and neuroscience. I invest in a lot of neurotech companies. And so, a lot of this conversation around, um, advanced superintelligence is like, they're like, oh, it's going to be conscious. And it's like, we don't even know what human consciousness is.
Yeah.
Like no one in neuroscience will say we know what it is. And people are comping to something that we don't actually even know what it is ourselves. And so, so it's really an area of, where we should have a lot of ambition and a lot of energy to understand it and to build around it. And then the last one is, I call it city, but it's really the built environment, because everything from light, sound, temperature, the way that we build things, the materials that we use when we build, can affect human cognition, human well-being. Um, and, it's a science. Actually, recently, there was a huge endowment made at Penn for neuroaesthetics, which is how, our environments really affect, the way that our brains operate. And so those are the six categories, and they all kind of stack on one another and break down to sort of, the first level is human plus, meaning how do we relate to ourselves? The second
Mm.
one is humans to humans. How do we in this technology environment relate to each other? And then the third one is like, how do we relate to machines? And it's a little counterintuitive, but I think the age of AI is actually the age of relationship, um, to self, each other, machines, and then also the environment and the world that we're in.
Mm. God, Nicole, so beautiful. And I mean, have you ever been to a conference that had these core themes that people are aligning to that truly reflect us as people and humans and our society? So thank you so much for really, really birthing this and putting this out there, because we're all still talking about this that went. And what's next? What's happening next?
Mm. Well, Human Tech Week is for next year is it's going to be May 11th through 15th. And again, for me, um, I'm a builder, and I want us to actually solve our actual problems in these areas. And so I'm partnering with a couple of organizations, and what we're building is what we're calling a human plus AI innovation engine. And we're going to actually connect, buyers to builders and backers, um, for human flourishing, and to actually, solve the problems that people are having and wanting to get solved. And so, the part of me that likes to actually, create change and to actually drive change is like so excited, because what people really need is they need this space to, to find alignment,
Mm.
to, where, the incentive systems are, aligned and transparent so they can actually create together, because people want to solve these problems. Um, Backers want to fund the solving of these problems, builders around the world, with our partnership. Actually, I mean, we'll be able to announce it soon, but with our partnership, we're going to have, bring 220,000 builders into
Mm.
our ecosystem to be able to work on, um, human flourishing problems, products, and systems. So you'll actually be able to find talent to build the thing that's in your head. And they want to do this. And people want to fund this. And so we're doing this. We're just gonna like go ahead and, and do the work.
I love it. I love it. This is what I love about you and people people like you. Where it's like, okay, there's so much happening, that you know as we travel around the world, you hear a lot of people are afraid, and I can give stats. We were
Mm,
talking about this earlier. MIT came out, I actually know some of the authors on this, came out and said that 95% of pilots are failing, AI pilots in the enterprise, or you were saying Rand is saying it's like 80 to 85%, whatever the number is, a high number. And, we're also seeing that around the world, 92% of people are concerned, about the use of their
mhm,
data. A lot of people are afraid of AI. We keep hearing these things that are fear-based, and Nicole's like, yeah, let's just dive in and build. I'm the same way too, that. So
mhm,
can you share a little bit, because what I love, you have a varied background, but you have been out in the trenches,
mm,
really, really, you don't just build just because you have an idea, you build because based on experience. So
mm,
what are you seeing, with some of the, because I will say this, what I love is you always have some great examples of, wait a minute, this is what we did and this is working really well. So why are between 80 to 95% of the projects out there failing? And what is your recommendation? Like what is the wisdom that
mm.
you've seen where this actually works really well?
Yeah, so I mean, having your data, in in places where you can access it and clean it up and available, that's kind of table stakes. But it is completely insufficient. It's like marrying someone just because they like you. Like it's not enough. It's
Wait, so are you with the Gen Zers, the 80% that are like, no, I'm just gonna marry an AI at this point?
No, 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 not at all. But it's just there's more to it. And so,
Okay.
one of the projects or one of the ways that I show up in the world is that, as you mentioned, I work with the Society of Human Resource Management on human and AI enablement. And they have 340,000 members who take care of 362 million people worldwide every Monday. This is real people. It's not like an imaginary TAM and for our audience, that's a total addressable market. And if you're an investor, you always see decks where people are like, oh, 3 billion people in the TAM. And they never necessarily reach that number. And so, working with real people who are working with real people who are on the front lines of these AI adoptions because, actually the HR leaders are in the room because they are responsible for learning and development. So they're the ones who are getting the fluency into the organization so that people can even use it. They're the ones who are helping the organization understand their culture. And so if it's a culture that needs to become a data culture, so they're collecting their data in the right way, that even after they clean up and, historically, they're set up to be a data organization that AI can be brought into and actually be leveraged. Having a data oriented um, approach, it has to also be in the culture that it's something that you value. Um, and so, what people are finding is that most of the failures, once you do table stakes, like if you don't have data, you can't even use it. Um, but once you get the table stakes done, the real causes of failure, it's people, processes, and ways of being. It falls apart or succeeds based on the way that the humans, are a factor into the process. Are you doing AI with people? Or are you doing it to them? And, and are you if you're a established organization, like if you're a brand new organization, you could decide to be AI first, which means that you don't make any hires unless you've already seen unless you've already tried software for it. But if you're doing that, it means that every hire you make is already going into that culture.
Mhm.
Or you can be an AI native organization where you say, we're going to hire as many people as we need, but we want every person to have basically to be, levered times 10. That, we're going to equip every person. So we're going to hire who we need. We're not going to say, only software first. We're going to hire who we need, but each of those people, we want to give them the power to do the work of 10 people. And we're going to think a lot about how to do that and get their feedback on how to do that. So if we have 10 people, it's as if we had 100 working for our organization. So that's an AI native organization. And then there's, you know, companies that are established, then they have to, human power, human-centered, tech powered. There's a lot of things people are saying, but they're transitioning to this, electricity, and in order to do that, it's like, how do you unlock the brilliance of your people to redesign your workflows to keep you competitive? Because the thing is that taking any of these things off the shelf will make you identical to your competitors. And so you have to change it to match your culture, context, and customers. And the people who know the most about them are the people doing the work with that today. And so if you don't have trust, if you don't know how to align incentives, um, I was talking to an organization earlier today, that has a culture problem, in the sense that, their organization has said, look, we're not going to get rid of any of you if you come on the journey, and it's not enough. Um, and so one of the things I was explaining was sort of like, in um, what I've seen people in that situation do, and it's really tied to culture. There's one organization that I was talking to also, recently, and they did choose your own adventure, and it was insufficient to get people to go on the journey because people are doing their current jobs. And then historically, they've done mandates, and mandates, everybody does it, but they don't really do it. We all know how to do that. You do it, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but they're a gold star culture. So what they did is they put it in the incentives, where they put in the performance, where every manager was evaluating every person um, on how AI excited they were and what they had done about it. So they didn't mandate it. They didn't choose your own adventure. But if you're a manager and you're evaluating other people on it and you're not AI adventurous, then, and so they made it a gold star, and, got like over 80% of the organization onto the platform within like 2 months of making it a gold star, when both
Mm.
these other sides didn't work. So it's really understanding what your culture is, and then, aligning it with your culture in order to unlock your people, so they redesign your workflows and figure out how you can succeed and be different than your competitors in this new world. And so people are failing if they leave the people out. But
Yeah.
the good news is that people who fail the first time out, when they thought it was a tech upgrade, when they thought they were moving from BlackBerry to iPhones, um, you know, uh, they when they get another bite of the apple, they make it people oriented often.
You know what I really love, Nicole, is that you're really seeing, demonstrably, being an incredible advisor to these organizations, and also helping, build some of these programs out. You're really seeing that the successful initiatives is absolutely connecting in people, right? It's really about people being involved rather than, oh, we're just going to throw some agents out here, agentic AI, and it'll just take care of everything and goodbye, people. So I feel like you're dispelling that myth, which is really what we're here to help people understand, is being compassionate of what people are going through right now. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, and also just the work that you've done for so many years to not only build but also invest and the solutions and the technologies that are relevant to us as a society today, and what you put out there with Human Tech Week, and more, and what you're building. I can't wait to see more there. Last but not least, we have just a couple of minutes. Can you share your an incredibly deep person and incredibly conscious person. What does compassion mean to you? And what
Mm.
does compassion mean to you in the context of these intelligent machines or solutions?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to, um, you know, the age of AI being the age of relationships. Um, and it's really our relationship with ourselves. Um, and, self-compassion, is actually a really hard thing, until you like, often in many cultures, it's, um, there's a way that we drive ourselves that can be not compassionate, or there's a way that we speak to ourselves that can be not compassionate. Um, and what I think about with compassion in the age of AI is that um, the top two things that humans have to do is we have to be, or the survival skills really is adaptability and ideation. And for me, ideation is iteration with creativity. And so to have that bandwidth that we need in order to be like get really good at changing and learning and ideating and iterating, and adapting, um, you know, you have to be compassionate with yourself to do that. You have to, be able to be a beginner and be compassionate with yourself to be a beginner. You have to be compassionate with the fact that, like I work on this stuff every day, all day, and I get overwhelmed. And to be like, I am overwhelmed right now, and that is okay, you know? And so, in order to learn the most, and change the most, we have to be compassionate with ourselves. So it's also a part of that and relationship to self. And then with relationship to one another, I think the compassion with others in this age, I think a lot about, for me, um, I really want to be a part of engineering a soft landing. I think that I'm not a utopist. Many people think that I am because, Human Tech Week is so positive, but I don't like, I don't see myself as, I also don't see myself as a techno optimist. I've read the essays closely, and I don't think that just because we build the tools, ergo humanity, is, automatically better to one another because we're not, fighting over resource constraints or fighting over resources. I think it gets very, I don't know if you remember the star belly sneeches, you know. So we have to deal with the fundamental question of, developing healing and, and supporting, um, human development, and the path towards deeper human consciousness. And so we have to be compassionate with one another in that, like, what is the ambition that we have for how we're using these tools? Do we have ambition for the betterment, of human beings and then also our planet? Or do we get lost in some sort of tech and tool? Do we get tech drunk? And lost in some sort of like, tool drunkenness? Or are we intentional and clear about, compassionately wanting to create the ability for humanity to have a abundant future? And so I think that's a compassionate thing too. Um, and at some point, it's like we have to figure out how we relate to our machines, and then also, our environment. But the first two are the criteria to get to the third, you know, how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other, compassion being a major component of adaptability, and then compassion being a big component of, how much ambition do we have for, what we want for, our species, with each other. So that's what I think of
I love
passion is.
that. Nicole, Thank you for the very, very wise words, sharing your heart, your experience, and all that you have done and continue to do.